Welcome, everybody, to today's Catalyit Live Hot Topic, from pilots to production, how AI is reshaping insurance. We're excited to have you all here. I am Scott Wingo, Catalyit's webinar producer, and I'll be your host for today's session. Today, we are joined by Vic Yeh, co-founder and CEO of Cara. Vic works at the forefront of AI innovation in insurance, helping organizations move beyond experimentation and into real production-grade AI deployments that drive measurable business outcomes. Vic, we are certainly glad to have you here today, as well as Nikhil in the background there. Thank you guys for joining us today. And AI has been a major topic across the industry. I know you've heard about it day in and day out over the past couple of years. But for many agencies and brokerages, the question is no longer should we use AI? It's how do we actually make it work at scale inside of our own business? Because there's a big difference between running pilots and deploying AI in production. So today's conversation is focused on that transition. And before we get started, just a few quick notes. Please enter your questions into the Q&A section at any time. We'll hold off and answer those with Vic and Nikhil at the end of his presentation today. And feel free to use the chat as well. I'll be monitoring that throughout the session. If there's any technical difficulties or if you have any side questions in the chat, I'll be checking that out as well. And today's session, as always, is being recorded, and the replay will be available within 24 hours inside Catalyit's on-demand video vault at catalyit.com. So you'll be able to rewatch it, share it with your team, share it with anybody else that you might know would be interested in this. And with that, Vic, thank you again for being here today. And Nikhil, and I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you and give you the screen share.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott, and really appreciate everyone for coming and joining the webinar today. And with that, I'm going to first share my screen as we get started with the presentation. Can everyone see my screen? Perfect.
Sir,
Perfect.
looks good, Vic.
Awesome. Great. Thanks again, everyone, for joining the webinar today. I'm Vic, co-founder, CEO of Cara. We are a venture-backed, New York-based insurtech, providing an AI platform to insurance agencies and brokerages, helping insurance firms automate your manual workflows so you and your team can spend more time on premium production and building that client relationships. And me and my colleague Nikhil are very excited to welcome everyone to the webinar with Catalyit today, as we'll be diving into the topic that nearly everyone, in the ecosystem is talking about: how to move AI from pilots to production. And in the past year, I've helped hundreds of insurance agencies and brokerages adopt AI. And this is really about what we have seen worked in practice for insurance. So we'll first start off by exploring the evolution of AI and discussing practical steps on how you can implement these lessons into your firm's AI adoption and measure real business impacts. So we'll talk about the gap between the interesting pilots that you're seeing and the production grade systems that folks are actually using on a day-to-day basis, where that's really kind of the gap where most organizations struggle and where we see the opportunities ahead for you and your team. And with that, just a bit about myself. So I'm Vic, and I'm a licensed insurance agent and an AI engineer. A bit about us in terms of the background. My team and I previously scaled up and sold a digital insurance brokerage to one of the largest privately owned insurance companies in the US, called the McGowan's Company. And now we solely focus on providing AI to insurance brokerages. So our product, Cara, is truly an AI product built by agents for agents. First of all, before getting to kind of the specific on how folks are using AI, I want to talk about kind of where we are at as an industry today. So we are really at an inflection point in terms of AI transformation in the insurance industry. For the past 2 years, AI has been one of the most discussed technologies in insurance. Agencies, brokerages, carriers have all experimented with different tools to explore the potential of this new emerging technology. But initially, much of that activity remained in experiments. And many of the early AI deployments we saw in the past years live in demos or only acted as proof of concept rather than a meaningful change on how insurance organization operated. And that phase is now ending. So across the insurance value chain, AI is really moving at a very rapid rate from pilots to productions as organizations move beyond experimentation. AI is beginning to reshape the underlying workflows that power insurance operations. And one thing to really emphasize and point out is that this shift is really less about just adding another tool to your tech stack, but really more about fundamentally rewiring, changing how work gets done across the industry. So the industry has really beginning to see really advanced, rapid improvements with AI. AI, as we talked about, powered by large language model, is really one of the fastest growing improved technology we have ever seen in human history. And largely due to the rapid advancements on large language models, along with the capital influx into this broader ecosystem. And so when you look at the timeline in the past couple of years, we have really moved past the experimental phase. So AI insurance is now becoming more of a business imperative. So in 2024, we're seeing many early ideas on how to deploy AI in insurance, using AI insurance starting to shape as industry starting to discover new ideas and build AI product powered by large language models. And in 2025, we start seeing more insurance firms having the appetite to start experimenting with experiments and potentially piloting AI for silent use cases. But given the rate that this whole technology is improving, as we are in the first quarter of 2026, we're starting seeing a lot more production workflows and measurable ROIs being measured and deployed across the organization as AI is becoming more embedded into the day-to-day operation with proven business impact. And that's really the phase that we're entering currently or as an industry. So before diving into how AI is now working production, we need to first understand the challenges and operational reality that insurance agencies and brokerages face. Insurance is one of the largest industries in the global economy, but the day-to-day work inside an agency and brokerages remains heavily manual. The agents, the account managers, the service teams still spend a significant portion of their time completing application, putting together quote proposal, analyzing policy coverages, rekeying data across multiple different systems, relaying information by being the bridge between the customers and the carriers. But these operational processes, even though they're manual, they're very essential for running an insurance brokerage, but they rarely create direct value for the clients. And at the same time, our industry is really facing growing talent shortage. Only about 25% of the current insurance workforce is under the age of 35, and nearly 50% of the workforce is expected to retire over the coming decades. So agency and brokerages are really struggling to hire and train staff quickly enough to keep up with that demand. So that poses the central question that everyone is facing on a daily basis, which it creates a fundamental challenge for brokerages. How do you scale your revenue and capacity without increasing headcount at the same pace? When we really look at the involvement of technology in insurance, historically, insurance software functioned primarily as system of records. Basically, agencies, management systems, CRMs, carrier portals help digitize information, but still require humans to execute these operational work. Your employees are still responsible for reading the policies, drafting up the emails for the clients, comparing policy coverages, generating certificates of insurance, and moving information across systems. And even the most highly digital agencies still rely on a significant manual coordinations across different tools. AI now introduces a new interface for interaction. So the main difference between the new AI system we're talking about is that instead of simply storing data, modern AI system can now interpret and act on those information. And this is really the key difference that we're talking about. When embedding AI directly into the existing workflows, AI begins to function less like a tool, but more like an operational layer supporting your entire organization. As we're seeing now, AI in production can analyze policies, actually drafting up client communications, comparing coverages, filling out forms, assisting with servicing tasks. Often these tasks, this work all gets done in the background while your human staff are not in the office. And also, in addition to navigating across multiple different systems and different to complete tasks, insurance professionals can now increasingly work through AI systems to coordinate these different processes behind the scenes, even with voice and across voice and email channels as well. So we're seeing that AI becomes the interface that connects the broader technology tech stack together as it's sitting on top of your existing tech stack. And given that the insurance industry is highly specialized and it's also a very regulated industry, when we talk about the day-to-day workflows that your agency faces from quote to bind to issue to ongoing servicing workflows, brokerages really operate within workflows that require high accuracy, compliance, and also need full auditability. And oftentimes, when you see an errors in documentation or missing information, can really create significant operational or error and omission risk for insurance organization. And that's typically where we see the generic AI tools struggle and fall short in this environment. Even though some of the generic AI tools, they can generate text or summarize documents, they still often lack the domain knowledge required to understand the insurance specific workflows. And that's really the gap that we're seeing when the agency adopts their generic AI tools such as ChatGPT or Gemini, for example. And on the other hand, a lot of folks are talking about how can we have AI to be a lot more insurance specific? And that gets into the realm of what we talked about as domain specific AI systems. They are capable of interpreting policy languages, understanding the structure of your core forms, analyzing endorsements, navigating your day-to-day brokerage operations. And at the same time, they also fit the compliance requirements while maintaining a very clean and clear audit trails across your organization actions. So typically, when we're talking about domain-specific AI, for insurance, it has these three things in parallel. Number one is it understands insurance very deeply. Number two is that it follows the industry standard and your agency workflows end to end. And number three, obviously, data security is very important. And oftentimes with the domain specific AI, it has that domain data security built in terms of platform usage. And this is really the reason why we see the next wave of AI adoption insurance will be increasingly centered around domain specific systems designed around our entire industry, less so on the generic AI tools being applied for the broader economy. So when we are able to adopt AI, when AI operates in domain specific context, where we see the greatest value does not really come from just automating one task. The greatest ROI really comes from connecting multiple different tasks into a very coordinated workflows end to end. So let's take one example. When we're a brokerage, we generate a lot of certificate of insurance as an example. So let's take that one as an example. Traditionally, generating a certificate of insurance involves many steps of manual processes from reviewing the policy details to confirming coverages information. Once the agent, the producer, the AE understand about the coverage information across your policy deck page endorsements, they then move on to completing the core 25, generating certificates. And once that's being reviewed and approved, they send the certificate over to the client. And each step requires human intervention. But now with production grade domain specific AI, a lot of this workflow can actually starting to be automated. Systems can now interpret incoming requests across both email and voice, verify the policy data based on the policy documents that AI has access to, or against the AMS and CRM that your agency operates on, generate using those information, automatically generate the Accord 25 COI and draft an email for certificate delivery just within minutes. So we're really seeing that the clearest ROI, the real ROI, comes from connecting multiple different tasks into an end-to-end coordinated workflows throughout this process. And then across the organization, there could be dozens, if not hundreds of workflows that can potentially be very high impact for your organization. And that's really where we recommend you to start thinking proactively about on finding those common grounds that your producers, your AMs are facing on a daily basis. So commonly, some examples that we're seeing across a lot of the insurance organizations that we partner with include automating the renewal processes, streamlining the new business submission processes, policy checking and review, reviewing the loss run submitted by the policy holder, generating risk reports, handling after business hour phone calls when no one's available or on holidays, or inputting key information into AMS and CRM. So when you map out and start identifying these high impact workflows, that's really kind of the beginning of the process on how you can start thinking about where AI can help. So in order to be pragmatic about utilizing AI effectively, we must find the common processes and workflows within your organization in order to leverage AI for improvement. So always start with the problem before the solution. And as we're seeing, the real power isn't about just fixing one problem, it's about connecting everything together. So when the workflows talk to each other, that's where the exponential returns happen. And when you're able to apply AI across dozens of operational processes, the productivity gain becomes a lot more substantial. Account managers all of a sudden regain hours of time per week. Producers are able to spend more time transitioning from simply being a task processor to a risk advisor on advising clients on complex insurance questions and spend less time on the administration work. And the entire organization, the brokerages, will be able to scale more effectively, scale the capacity without having to scale the staff team linearly. So that really brings to the center point. The compounding effect really comes to fruition when you're able to free up your best people to do their best work, and everything else would follow as a result. For most insurance agencies and brokerages, starting to adopt AI really does not require a full, complete technology overhaul. We're seeing the most successful organizations start small and expand as they see the results and a clear ROI. So this is a very practical path on how you can start adopting AI in production in 5 simple steps. Number one, you want to start off with a clear operational problem. So identify your most common manual workflows. Earlier, we talked about the COI generation, submission preparation, policy checking, renewal preparation, handling customer phone calls, and so on. Across the staff within your organization, list out the day-to-day responsibility that each individual is doing and start mapping out that entire responsibilities into the workflow. So that leads to the second point on mapping out the current workflows on a paper or on a chart and understand and document where the manual workflows slows the team down. Maybe this is around filling out the core form, maybe this is around reviewing the policies and so on, but making sure that you're able to list out the workflows sequentially. And then once we have these workflows and processes on paper, that's when your team can start evaluating the technology options, evaluate the AI tools that can potentially help with the workflow automation. So you can start off by speaking to your industry peers and to explore what domain-specific AI products have really worked well for them. They're really built specifically for insurance agencies and brokerages, and see how they can potentially integrate within your existing processes. And after you identify the tools, before rolling out immediately to your entire organization, we have seen a lot of successes from insurance agencies and brokerages by piloting with a small group first. So you want to first identify a cohort of users within your organization that can trial this new technology and see whether there's meaningful improvements on the day-to-day workflows. You want to be as involved as possible so that you can really understand about the differences pre-AI and post-AI. And once you start seeing that ROI for those specific use cases, that's when we move on to the stage 5 of this process is on expanding the AI across your entire organization. So this is going to be a learning process. It's not going to be one and done. As you continue to evaluate the tools and discover processes for improvement, you will continuously and gradually refine the processes and roll out the AI across your entire organization as you take on more successful use cases with the tool that you adopt. And this is generally the 5-step practical processes that we see have worked well for a lot of the insurance agencies and brokerages across the country. So why now? Across brokerages who are adopting AI in production, the early results are very visible already. Many teams report reclaiming at least several hours per individual per week and allowing the staff to focus more on building that client relationships and revenue generation work. So really the lens and perspective we're looking through how AI is working in production is really not to replace human staff, but to augment the productivity of your staff on a day-to-day basis. Instead of spending 70% of the time on very manual back office workflows, what if we can automate those form generation analysis work away from your staff so they can spend more time on advising the client and focus on higher leverage activity to generate more premium for your agency? And that's really the lens you should think through it. And given how quickly this entire market is shifting, the greatest risk for an insurance organization may really just be falling behind the adoption curve and needing to play catch up. And insurance professionals who have learned need to start kind of learning and think more like technologies through delegating the repetitive workflows to AI. And this will be increasingly important for insurance organization in the coming years. And just to summarize and conclude everything on what we have talked about, the goal of AI is really not to replace people, but to empower your team by removing the operational friction that has historically been limiting the entire industry's efficiency. So when repetitive workflows are automated, insurance professionals can focus more time on the higher leverage work and building that client relationships. And we're seeing more tasks getting automated. Brokerages are able to generate higher revenue on a per employee basis. And at the end of the day, the customers benefit from better services due to these operational improvements across the organization. So the shift from pilot to production really marks the beginning of a much larger transformation on how insurance organizations operate. I think if this is the baseball game, we're really just in the second innings of this transformation. So it's still very early for our industry to adopt AI, but this is a time to really kind of jump in and evaluate and see how these potential new solutions can fit and improve your organization over the coming quarters. And for an industry that is centered around managing risk and protecting others, the opportunity ahead might really present one of the most significant operational upgrades in decades. And thanks everyone for listening and joining today. And if you're interested in learning more about production grade AI or Cara, feel free to visit our website, Cara at getcara.ai, or send me an email directly at vic@getcara.ai. And if you'd like to see a full demo of our platform as well, feel free to reach out directly. And I think we have also shared a demo booking link in the chat. But wanted to now open up the floors for everyone to see if there's any questions on how you can effectively move AI from pilots to production within your organization.
All right. Excuse me. Thanks, Vic. Appreciate that presentation there. And we don't have a current question, but I definitely have one for you. Just in your personal experience with your customers, whether they're using the research and compare, COI generation, the triage, the phone triage, policy document, being able to explore those policy documents with an AI. What is the fastest? So if an agency comes to you and they're what you're saying, they're playing with ChatGPT, they're not doing anything else. What obviously they got to get their systems, like you said. What are they doing? Where are their bottlenecks? What's the fastest thing you're seeing from your personal experience that agents are adopting and finding like instant, not maybe not instant, but just that time saving ability using AI? What are you guys seeing on your?
Yeah, that's a great question. What we realized over the past year is that each agency is different. So it really depends on some agency might be a lot more commercial line focused, some agency might be a lot more personal auto focused and so on. So naturally the problems that they are facing on a daily basis varies, depends on their book of portfolio in terms of premium
Mm-hmm.
production. And as a result, we always recommend our clients on starting with the problem before the solution. So you wanted to first map out where you see the biggest bottleneck is for your agency. As we discussed about the certificate generation cases, those might be more applicable to commercial line focused agency. And maybe on the personal side, this might be more involving the renewal processes. And once these pain points are identified, then that's when we can start thinking about where kind of the most effective improvements could be. When it comes to a commercial line, if the bottleneck is certificate generation, maybe the first how you want to automate is how do you generate certificate more effectively? And maybe on the renewal side, the question is how do you do policy comparison and generate renewal quotes in minutes instead of having to review that in hours and so on. But
Mm-hmm.
I think we always see customers kind of starting out with easy tool, maybe with for email drafting on ChatGPT, Gemini, and then kind of graduate into more domain specific AI. But that's where we really see where the most effective lifts comes in is by kind of starting with the most manual and painful questions and then adopt the solution accordingly. And Nikhil, let me know if there's anything else you would like to add to this topic as well.
No, I think you covered it pretty well, Vic. Makes sense.
Awesome. And we did have a question pop in, Vic. So this is more, again, directly dealing with Cara. And so, how would Cara interact with our agency management system? So, in what ways does Cara interact with AMS?
Yeah, great question. So the way we've designed Cara is an intelligent layer that sits on top of AMS and CRM. So Cara does integrate with all the major AMS in the ecosystem, from AMS 360 to Hawksoft to Momentum, Salesforce, and so on. And once the AMS are integrated, the AI will be able to reference a lot of the key information from AMS and also write data back as well. So you can think about a kind of AI solution, in this case, Cara, as that layer on top of your system of records, or AMS or CRM.
Okay, awesome. And I did have another question for you. It's building off what I asked you earlier with what are you seeing across the entire network of agencies these days? What is the most from Kara's perspective, what is being used the most across the board? And I know you mentioned it depends on what those agencies, what do they specialize in,
Yep.
what are they using, where's their bottlenecks. But from the day in, day out, all the agencies and teams you guys are working with, what do you see being utilized the most right now using AI?
Yep. I think right off the bat, without knowing a specific agency, I think there are three things that are most commonly used. Number one
Mm-hmm.
is analysis. I think AI is particularly effective when analyzing insurance specific files, documents, and so on. This might be identifying the coverage gaps or analyzing your loss run and so on. This can be applied across the process. So analysis is first component where we see the most effective ROI
Hmm.
being gained for a brokerage. Number two is on generation. So large language model and insurance specific AI are particularly good at generating new documents, new reports, new spreadsheet, new SOV documents, and so on. So combining with the analysis research component with generation, that's where we see a lot of the lift happening across the majority of the insurance organization. And the third part would be autonomous handling. And this involves voice and email and so on. And when you think about customer service inquiry, for example, a lot of the time, as of today, when an agency is after business hours, the customer phone calls would go straight to voicemail. But now with autonomous agents that are built specifically for insurance, AI can handle 5 different calls, 10 different calls, anytime and can work 24/7 and so on. So instead of going straight to a voicemail, that's a significant kind of upgrade in terms of customer experience on making sure that the customer questions get answered. And then you as the agents, the owner can just come in the next business day. Kind of summary, analysis, generation, document generation, and automatic handling are where we see a lot of the common ROI gains from agency. But obviously there's a long tail of workflows automation as well. It really depends on what the biggest pain points are.
Awesome. And I know one huge thing that everybody's concerned with how fast everything is moving is security, right? That data security. Specifically for Cara, how are you guys handling that?
Yep, great. Yeah, the short answer is we take data security very seriously. And as we understand, we're dealing with insurance specific data. And Nikhil, do you want to speak a bit more about kind of the security protocol and what makes domain specific AI different from generic AI?
Yeah, this is, as Vic mentioned, something we take very seriously. And I think something that we've designed the entire platform around. The first thing that we do is make sure that, hey, every customer's data physically and logically isolated. Every customer's data has strict access control requirements, encryption, TLS certificates, and so forth. But more importantly, like when you use a general AI tool off the shelf, you really don't know what that company is doing with that data, right? That company is probably going to be using it to improve their products, to train, to get a better product rolled out to all their other customers. With Cara, the approach that we're taking is we're improving your specific instance of Cara. So Cara learns from your data and only your data, and your data stays private to your instance of Cara. And we have agreements with all of our sub-processors that none of that data is used for training. So that's the real major difference in how we take security and privacy seriously.
Awesome. And we did have another one pop in, Vic. Is Nicola asked, is there something AI can do about data intake and quoting that you would be have knowledge about?
Yes, yeah. So I think what AI has been really exceptional in terms of improvements in the last couple of months is around last couple of quarters is converting unstructured data into very structured formats and action. This is really where we see the manual processes around application intake or quoting is about in terms of insurance processes. So for example, when it comes to Cara's platform, we have a voice AI components that is able to help collect all the quote intakes information during or after business hours across personal lines and commercial line and convert that into an application that will be ready for the carriers or the wholesalers. So there's definitely use cases for AI that's worth exploring, essentially around the intake part and quoting parts.
Okay. And more specifically, so you're saying it's receiving all that data, all the points it needs. Is that can that automatically populate individual specific forms that agencies have, or will it is it more, hey, here's the data dump, now you got to put it
Yep.
here, or is it going to automatically do it?
Yep, the former, correct. So
Awesome.
data can be automatically populated based on the core form or carrier specific
Hmm.
supplemental forms as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. And I had another one. I know the next thing people really worry about is, and you referenced it throughout today's presentation, is we've all, and I love playing with ChatGPT, creating bots. And if you, I'm sure you guys do too as well. This is what you do. But a lot of times I'll create a bot, I'll ask it a question, and I know I got the question wrong because it's not, like you said, it's that generic AI. It's not that domain AI that's going to be specific to whatever I had, whatever I was building that bot for
Yep.
inside of the ChatGPT network. How how does that advance? Obviously, we're not at the pinnacle, like you said. We're in the second inning. We're not even anywhere close near what AI is going to do.
Yep.
But where are you guys at on that? And then where is that building to as far as accuracy and like making sure, because this is important data that's going to go in all these accord forms, or and this is going to deal with money and what their quotes are going to be and what the renewals are going to be. So I guess not how can you guarantee, but how is that specific domain insurance AI protected today?
Yep, yeah, I think Scott, you're very spot on. I think the AI
Hmm.
we're using today is really the worst AI that we'll use in our lifetime.
Yeah.
And the entire technology is really improving at a very rapid rate. And that's really what we are building Cara to be, at least for the insurance industry specifically as well. So it really comes down to the guardrails, how much
Hmm.
kind of guardrails you're putting in. And that's really another key difference between a domain-specific AI, because we're operating a very regulated industry in insurance, versus a generic AI tool that might not have the same guardrails and understanding in place for the workflow automation. And then feel free to kind of chime in a bit further on kind of the specific kind of guardrails to put onto the system.
Yeah, I think being domain specific gives us a lot of advantages in that sense because every use case that we build Cara to handle has an associated evaluation, right? So we're always testing how does Cara perform in this scenario and what does Cara do if this is what Cara receives as input. How does it work with like multi-line policies and excess and surplus policies? So we perform really rigorous testing on all the features that we build because we know that's the scenario that Cara is going to be used in.
Hmm.
That's obviously something that your general AI tools are not going to do. They're optimizing for different use cases and different metrics. Being domain specific means that every use case that we launch and every tool that we touch is grounded in some agent's actual workflow. And we use that as a benchmark for everything that we release.
Excellent. Awesome. And I did have another more Kara specific. So Vic, say someone after this call and we shared it in the chat and they can obviously reach out to you as well directly. If someone wants to call you guys, go through a demo, check it out, what does that look like in that if they say yes, here I want to sign up, here's what we're going to use, you guys work with them on the demo. What does the time frame look like as far as onboarding? What does it look like as far as service on the back end? So once somebody's on board, will they always have a direct like service contact? Hey, Vic, I can't figure out how to do this, or obviously not you, someone else. Does
Yep.
that how does that look with you guys?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, the entire platform is really easy to get adopted. And let's say
Hmm.
someone book a meeting, a demo meeting, liked it. Number one, we are actually offering an exclusive 14-day free trial to every audience as of today. So if you would like to give Kara a try, there's a trial period that your team can actually test it out. And once your account is provisioned, most of our customers are able to start using the platform within 1 hour kind of training meeting. And that's where we discover what are the biggest pain points our agency face today. And then we have a bunch of different module and use cases that are able to help bridge the gap. And then obviously if you liked it, you can proceed with the Kara subscription. But throughout this process, there will be a dedicated person to walk you through just to make sure that you're seeing a clear ROI before you commit further.
Okay, perfect. And as far as once somebody does sign up or once somebody is
Yep.
on board with you guys, moving forward and adapting, and because I know again, AI, it's changing every day. Like in a month, it's
Yep.
going to be different. As far as adapting to further integrations, or if someone comes to you that has a couple systems maybe you guys never worked with before, how are you guys operating with that?
Yeah, so because it's a cost subscription, all the
Hmm.
new changes we have a very talented engineering team. All the new
Okay,
changes get deployed, they automatically get upgrades automatically.
awesome.
Yep.
All right. Vic and Nikhil, I'll leave you with a closing. Just if you want to broadly touch AI again and just how it's going to help, or just and obviously drop care in there and how you guys can help agencies today and save on their ROI and just be more efficient. I'll let you get the last word and then I'll close us out.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott, and really appreciate everyone for joining today. And so, yeah, as mentioned, yeah, if anyone is curious about how to AI and start running pilot and deploying that into production, feel free to reach out to me directly. My email address is vic@getcara.ai, and feel free to reach out to our team directly on our website as well, which is getcara.ai. But we look forward to hearing from you and see how we can collaborate. And maybe I'll hand over to Nikhil for a similar closing remark as well.
Yeah, our team is always keen to understand any workflows, any issues that you're dealing with, and that's where we start when we work with our customers. Definitely drop us a line if there's something that you're curious about. Hey, can AI do this for me? Can I use Care to do this? Whether or not it's our product, and we're always happy to help advise.
All right, Vic, Nikhil, thank you guys again for such a forward-looking and insightful discussion today. Again, I know AI is fast, it's fast moving. People are asking questions every day, and we definitely think you guys are on the forefront. It's clear that the real opportunity with AI isn't just experimentation, it's operational. And the organizations that successfully move from pilots to production will be the ones that unlock meaningful efficiency, scalability, and growth. And of course, thank you to everyone who joined us today. We do know you guys are busy with your agency and teams. We truly appreciate you spending part of your afternoon with us. And as a reminder, this recording will be available within 24 hours inside Catalyit's on-demand video vault at catalyit.com. So feel free to rewatch it, share it with others on your team. And before you leave, please take a moment to complete our 3-question survey. Your feedback helps us with future Catalyit Live sessions. And you can also indicate whether you'd like to be connected directly with Cara, and I will initiate that as well, or the many other avenues that Vic mentioned. You can email him directly. You can sign up through the link that's in the chat, whichever way you want to go. And if you'd like to follow us or follow up after today's session or learn more, you can always reach us at hello@catalyit.com. And just thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. Thank you, Vic and Nikhil. We really appreciate your team over at Cara. And we hope to see you guys at another Catalyit Live session very soon.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.